Hi everyone, welcome to a new video. Thanks for joining me today. So today I have another real-time video for you, and it's of a Bengal cat that I drew last month for the Patreon members. So if you are on Patreon, this is currently available for the $7 tier. In real time, it's about 9 hours in total, so very long project. So in today's video, I'm showing you how I built up the paw, or the paws actually, but there's only one paw coming forward, so that's really interesting to draw. It creates a really nice perspective in the drawing. And so yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one. I am working with Faber-Castell Polychromos on 12 by 15 inches of Canson 1557 180 grams paper. And also, before we start with the video, I wanted to show you my new aquarium that I got. It's a nano tank. I already have one in my living room, but I really wanted one in my studio as well. So I finally got it and I set it up with some plants that still need to grow. And I also put my betta fishy in here, which is looking really cute. So I just wanted to show you. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started with the video now. Alright, so there we have the paws. And then we've already mapped out the stripes on the arms as well, or on this arm. So I don't need to do that. So I just can get started with the base layering. And I'm going to use the same colors that I used for the rest of the chest as well. So actually I can't really remember what I started with. I see more red on the center of the paw and then more like cool tones on the right side on the elbow, so I'm keeping an eye on that as well while doing the base layering. So I'm just going to get started with, let's do something neutral. Let's do Bister 179. Just start with a base layer of that. Oh, actually, I know that I can remember again what I started with. I started with the ivory, so let's do that instead. Honestly, it doesn't really matter that much, but the ivory just gets rid of the white of the paper already. So then we can start building the rest of the colors on top of that with very light pressure. I'm just adding a bit of ivory on top of the paws. Actually over the whole area in circular motions. Over the whole paw. Let's do the other one as well. So the ivory is a warm undertone, so it creates a yellow undertone for the whole area. I'm going to be layering some pinky tone on top, so probably some cinnamon, which is going to contrast the ivory to make sure that it becomes a little bit more of a neutral undertone instead of being so yellow. Adding a bit of on the toes, but not on the pad area, so not on the bottom of the paws, just the toes. Okay, so you probably won't be able to see that so well, but let's get cinnamon now. So that's 189, and just do the same, a little bit of base layering with a very light touch to contrast the amount of yellow that's in there, create more of a neutral undertone. Adding circular motions and a very even pressure, so I try to be very even throughout the whole area so that I don't create any blotches anywhere, because I do want a very smooth underlayer for the rest of my colors. So actually the very top line of this paw, it catches light. So you can see that the top line is a bit more lighter and more yellowy looking. So I'm not going to add any cinnamon there. Leaving open a little border at the top and adding cinnamon on the rest of the paw, especially the bottom area. Adding a little bit extra on the very bottom line of the elbow. Already create a little bit of 3D effect to the arm. Then the other one also needs a little bit of cinnamon. You can see that the start of this leg coming out from below or behind the other one, it's very light. And then the paw gets darker towards the toes. So I'm adding more cinnamon there, skipping the top of it. And then I'm giving all the shadow areas just a little bit extra. So we have that paw crossing over. That paw is quite dark. Just mapping out the shadows like this. I keep my pressure light though, because I don't want this color to be too prominent. I just want it to be a mapping out color, so not too prominent. I still want to be able to add all my reddish and yellow tones on top. These paws give this drawing so much perspective and so much character, so I really like this picture. It's just a little bit extra interesting compared to just the head and chest shot. So that's cool. Alright, so let's start adding some more color now. So I want to add a bit of yellow and a bit of red. So I'm definitely going to be adding Burnt Ochre 187 and also Sanguine as well. And just building up slowly from light to dark. Let's do some Burnt Ochre. Not really focusing on any of the fur texture yet. Just adding small glazes of color until we have toned like the base of everything. So now building up the tones of the lightest hairs in the fur. So the Burnt Ochre is quite vibrant, it's quite opaque, so I'm using very little pressure. And I'm trying to draw in the direction of the hair growth, so I'm looking at where the hairs are going and following that flow of it. add a bit of that burnt ochre on the other paw as well, so the very front one. Adding some of that yellow on the toes as well. Okay, and then I see that yellow glow at the very top of the arm. So I'm also going to add some, let's do some more bolder yellow tone. Let's do dark cadmium yellow 108. So that's quite bold, so I'm not going to add too much of it, just a light glaze. Let's create some nice lighting on the top. Of course, we'll be darkening up the rest of the arm as well. Okay, so then I want to add a little bit of violet as well, especially on the elbow. So on the right, I see more toned down color. So let's contrast all that yellow a little bit with the violet, tone that down. Add it at the bottom of the arm as well. It really looks like an arm. We're also going to be adding in those muscles that I see at the bottom. We're just going to be building this up very slowly. So I'm trying to approach the color pencil drawing a little bit more like painting. So I used to go in very vibrant and with quite a lot of pressure right from the start, but I'm changing that up a little bit, so I'm approaching it a little bit more loose. Just mapping everything out loosely, always staying light with the color. I'm adding the violet in every shadow area, so next to the toes. And let's do it at the very bottom of the paws as well. Just lightly, very lightly. On top of the dark pads as well. I'm going to be darkening that up quite a lot, but let's just put down a little bit of base layer there. All right, so now we have a really nice base layer of colors. So now we can start building up a little more. So I think I want to add in a little bit more of that orange. So let's do Sanguine 188. Still focusing on the base layers, but I am going to look more at the flow of the fur now. So I'm going to draw lines, but placed next to each other and then following the direction of the fur. And that very yellow border at the top that we filled in, I'm going to leave for now. So I'm going to leave that open. No other color there just yet. because I want to have that lighting effect there. So I might darken it up later after we've darkened up the whole arm area. For now I'm going to leave it and just darken up the center and the bottom of the arm. Okay, so let's start working on the contrast a little bit more. So I'm going to get dark sepia and really darken up these markings and stripes now. So that's 175, by the way. So this is where I hype up the pressure a little bit more, because now I can go in with the contrast. All the base layering is done. So let's just push in some really nice dark hairs right now. So this is actually very relaxing, just going over these stripes, following the flow of the arm, the muscle texture. And of course, these stripes don't have to be like exactly the same as the photo. And this makes such a big of a difference, hyping up the contrast like this. Now I directly see that the whole base layer of the arm can be darkened up again. But let's finish all these dark stripes first. Now I can also really darken up between these toes on the front. So let's darken up the toes. Also, I can do the toe beans now, the toe paths, with a base layer of dark sepia. Filling in the toe pads with a base layer because I'm going to be adding probably some cooler tones on top of this as well. And just filling in the shapes of these, making sure that the paws stay the correct shape. I really have to look closely at the shape of these toe pads because I can't see it very well. There's one underneath each toe and then one larger one here in the hook area, the wrist area. Okay, so that still looks a little bit messy, but we'll get to that. Let's leave this for now. It's mapped out, so now I'm going to work a little bit more on the arm again, because I feel it can have more color. A little bit more yellow. So now I am going to be glazing a tad of burnt or brown ochre. So that's a 182. And just glaze that a little bit with light pressure, because there are already so many layers underneath here. It is harder to add much color. But I don't need much of this because this is quite an opaque, vibrant color and I don't want too much yellow. So I'm just glazing a little bit. Right, just a little bit more of that yellow, that brown ochre color. And then maybe even a little bit more sanguine. And then I'm going to do a bit more, or a little bit of burnishing, not too much, but just a little, to get rid of the paper texture a little bit before I go in and really do the fur texture. All right, so now I'm going to take, let's not do the white Caran d'Ache. Instead, for a little bit of burnishing, I'm going to take ivory, 103. Go over the lighter fur areas a little, so not the stripes, because I want them to stay dark, but just a little bit on top of all the fur around. And you can use light colors like this, or maybe even warm gray, also for some burnishing. You don't have to use the white Caran d'Ache. I do really like the white Caran d'Ache if I really want to get rid of all the paper texture, just like on the eyes, for instance, or the nose. For these paws, I don't think it's really necessary. I'm just going over with medium pressure of ivory. And this also gives the paws a little bit more color. So the white Caran d'Ache will flatten all the colors a little, but I don't really want that. Okay, so you can still see a little bit of the paper. So I'm going to use that texture to do some texturizing of the fur. So I'm going to get burnt sienna 283, make it nice and sharp. I really need to get a new one. Almost ran out of burnt sienna. And I'm just going to look at the fur, look at where the hairs are going, and really focus on drawing in all these individual dark hairs. So I'll leave open spaces in between my lines, and those will be the light hairs showing up in between. Also clumping some hairs together. And really look at the fur direction. So here on the paw, the fur goes more towards the left, and then on the elbow area, the fur goes more towards the right. So keep an eye on that. And I'm basically just going all around with the burnt sienna like this. I'm also going over the dark stripes to give them a bit more color again, especially on the edges. Okay, so this gives the arm so much more texture to it. I do need to finish the paws though, so let's sharpen again. Alright, so spend some time on the paw. So this paw is coming forward quite a lot, so I have to spend enough time on this because it needs to be the thing that is the most detailed. Alright. So let's leave it here for the burnt sienna. I do want some more base layering on this forearm, the arm that's coming from underneath the other one. So I do see some more pinky tones in there, and I do want to add a pink blanket, I've decided. So I'm going in with a little bit of beige red 132 and continue some of the base layering there, because I haven't added too many layers on here yet. Taking some more cinnamon, 189, also adding that. Alright, and then I also want to contrast all the warm tones a little bit again with some violet. So I'm going to glaze some 138 violet on the elbow area. Cool that down. Maybe on the bottom arm area. And on the paw. Let's also add the violet on the bottom of the paw. That's coming forward, because I see a little bit of a cool tone in there. Also some blue, so I'll probably also add some blue. In all the white areas, I add a little bit of a violet base tone. Then I'm taking sky blue 146 and also add it on the bottom of the paw. So this is still the base layering. Alright, so now I do want to get the white Caran d'Ache and do a little bit more burnishing on the arms because I feel like I need to smooth that out before going in with the final details. Sharpening the Caran d'Ache. And I'm going to lightly go over all the areas that look a little rough. Avoiding all the markings again, the dark markings, because I don't want to darken those up. All right. Going to add a little violet on the markings just to deepen the color, and then I might go in with a little bit of black. Right, just getting to the more final stages, I'm going to add a bit of pink. So that's medium flesh 151. A little bit of glazing here and there. Still working on that balance between yellow and red. All right, and then maybe a little bit more yellow tones. So I'm going in with Let's do a little bit more brown ochre glazing on the wrist area. So this just takes many layers to build up. We're still not finished. It's a little bit more of that golden glow here and there. Okay, and then I'm going in with a bit of burnt sienna again. Going into the smaller details. Okay, now I'm going to add a bit more shadow with Caput Mortem Violet, the 263, focusing on the muscle on the arm at the bottom. Alright, we're getting there. Let's see if I want to add anything. A little bit more violet on the elbow. Basically, I can just keep on layering. Oh, and I also want to add a bit of black on these markings to darken them up even more. I'm not going to make them all black, but just add some black hairs in there. Okay, so let's leave the arm for what it is now and finish the paw, and then we can move on to the body. Also, I'm going to zoom out a little bit, see what this looks like from a distance. Alright, so everything still fits together, so that's good. Let's move on with the paw. Alright, so I'm taking a bit more burnt sienna and just add some little tiny details, and then I'm ready to move on to finishing this paw because it needs a lot more detail. Alright, so not burnishing the foot pads themselves. Now I'm going to take a little black and just darken up around the edges of the foot pads or toe beams. Alright, going to add a bit more Caput Mortuum Violet as well on the pads. I don't want them to all be completely black because there is some skin there, there is some color there. So adding some extra purple and then some extra Payne's Gray on the pads so they are dark but not completely black. All right. And then we are pretty far already with the legs, or actually done with the legs. I'm going to do a little bit more work on this foot or arm coming out from the other one. It needs a bit more shadow, a bit better transition. So I'm adding some extra burnt sienna on this arm, maybe some extra little hair texture. Look at where they're going. Then I'll do all the shadow underneath the arms when I do the blanket, but I still have to get or find a photograph of the specific blanket that I have in my head. So I'll show you that in the next part. A little bit of extra cinnamon on the arm. And I think I will leave part 2 at this. So then in part 3, I will finish the body and do the blanket. I think part 2 is already quite long enough. So just leave it at this. Let's add a little bit more shadow underneath the arm right here, the very bottom, with Caput Mortuum Violets. And then maybe extra Payne's Gray. Just trying to stay away from black in the shadows, rather use the dark purplish and bluish tones. Okay. And I think that's it for this part. So again, I'm going to zoom out, see what this looks like from a distance. Right. So that looks fine. Every color, it blends together, blends in with the rest. So this is the current state. And then in part 3, I'll finish everything. Alright, so that's it for this video. This is what the drawing turned out like. I hope you like it. It took about 9 hours in total, so pretty long. And I had a lot of fun with it. It's great to do a full body project sometimes. So if you want to join me on Patreon, you can. And you can find this project over on there as well. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you like it. Let me know what you think of it in the comments. You can always ask me questions there as well. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.